Hey, 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 lovely people, how are you? Welcome to the Truly Myrtle podcast. I'm Livy, and this is my weekly podcast that beams out into the internet on Thursday mornings, New Zealand time, on YouTube and Facebook, and it's live, and you can chat to me in the comments, and that's why I have an intro, because I sit here and I'm supposed to arrange my cushions and things like that and get myself sorted, and it gives you time to join me so that we all go live at the same time and find me. I put it up so that about an hour before now, I come out and I schedule it so that you can find it on YouTube and Facebook. And I send an email to my mini mag list saying, hey, I'm going to go live in just under an hour. So I try and make the video scheduled before the email goes. Sometimes I'm not successful, but I do try and do that. And that way you get to click a button and you go straight to Facebook or you go straight to YouTube, whichever one you prefer. And then you can find me when I go live. So if you want to do that and you want to get the email, it's a really easy way of then just clicking in and finding me. Then go to trulymyrtle.com/minimag and I'll send you the email. If you're on the minimag and you don't want the email, scroll down and I've got a button you can click to get off that email. So you don't get that email. You'll get the other emails, but you won't get that email. I often include buttons so that, like, I'd send out like 1 million emails for Wardrobe Toolbox just recently. If you didn't want the Wardrobe Toolbox emails, I had a button there and I said, you want to opt out. I think it said, I want to opt out of Wardrobe Toolbox emails, and that's fine for when the doors are open. You click that, I take you out of that list, and then it doesn't go to you. It's very clever. I have new glasses. I'm feeling like these glasses, I can't see anything without them. I'm always looking for new glasses. I'm feeling like these glasses are the kind of glasses that I'll look back in 10 years and think, what on earth was I thinking with those glasses? Because they're monsters. But I do like big glasses because then I can see. Actually, you're too far away. Let me just bring you a bit closer so I can see you a little bit better. Hello, everyone. So nice to see you. It's really good to see you from all over the show. On YouTube is here. Yay. You can give me a thumbs up if you're on YouTube. That's always nice. You could say, hey, I'm here. Here's a thumbs up. YouTube loves it when we get thumbs up on YouTube because I think it means that you get to see, it comes to you and it comes to everybody else. So that's always nice. And it's nice to see you on Facebook as well from all over the show. Lots of Aussies here today. New South Wales, Sydney, Melbourne. Really nice to see you. Cold and grey in Whakatane, is it, Barbara? Oh, my goodness. It's a bit cold and grey here too. My Mr. Myrtle updated all my computers, and now, when you do that, you don't know where anything is anymore. But I did notice, it's gone now. I don't know where it is. It was there before. It told me the temperature, and it said 13 degrees. So it was 13 degrees. It's not like the two Ronnies. These are so like the two Ronnies. It's exactly what I'm thinking they're going to be like. But never mind. I've got a black pair of these that live next to my bed. These have actually got like purple. They're really cheap. I just get them at we've got this shop near us I live near a place called Pukekohe, and there's a shop in Pukekohe. Pukekohe is like a really old school New Zealand town with a little high street, and I like it. It's small. But we have one shop there that's kind of trendy. You know how there's always the one shop that's kind of trendy. And so they have all sorts of things in there, and they have glasses. And I'm always, whenever I pop in, I'm like, what glasses have you got? So I get all my glasses from this place. They're really cheap. And unfortunately, I just seem to get, I'm up to the limit of my strongness at the moment. I keep getting them all the same at the moment. So hopefully I stay this amount. Oh, hi, Donna, new subscriber on YouTube. Nice to see you. Oklahoma City in Oklahoma. Fantastic. Back home yesterday, Barbara. Weirdly, you can't do comments. Oh, that's weird. Why can't you do comments on Facebook this morning? That's very strange. In fact, I am seeing a couple of comments on Facebook. I can see Terry, where it's a howling northerly down where she is. And it's been really windy up here. I can see some, so I don't know what's happening to you, Barbara, but I'm glad you're home. That's really good news. Okay, so I thought today we would talk a little bit about socks, seeing as it's Socktober, and I can see lots of you knitting socks in the Truly Myrtle Hangout over on Facebook and in the lounge in Wardrobe Toolbox. And I thought it would be nice to talk about socks a little bit. And I've got my sock guide that a lot of you have been getting, which is great. If you're on my mini mag, I'm sending this to you anyway. I ran out of email steam this week, And so I was supposed to remind you that we still have the socks on sale. If you're a Mini Mag subscriber, you get a special code, and they're on sale until Sunday this week. So I'll send you another bunch of emails over the weekend. But I just ran out of email steam. Sometimes I actually can't bear the thought of sitting in front of my computer anymore. And I was grading a sweater as well on my computer, and I'd rather knit than sit at my computer, and I'd rather do things. And I've been picking flowers, all the beautiful spring flowers. I've got a lot of blossom trees around here, so I've been picking those and putting them in vases, and I'd rather do that than sit at the computer. So I just ran out of steam. But if you are a Mini Mag subscriber, or you've just downloaded these guides, I will send you an email and give you the code tomorrow morning, and I'll tell you what the code is for the sock deal, which are on all my socks. I actually pulled all the sock patterns out because I wanted to talk to you about some terminology. I've got all these socks, and actually the sock deal is also on the printed patterns. So if those of you who are in New Zealand, I actually don't recommend buying the printed patterns if you're not in New Zealand. The postage is an absolute killer. I do supply some shops in Australia, so you can get some over there. And if you want your local shop to have them, just ask them. But they all are printed. They're really cute. They come in a booklet form, so some of them are like booklets like this. So they've got the pages inside with a card cover. But these are the ones I've just done recently, which I like a lot, because the ones where they're only 6 pages, I used to just add a couple of photos and make them 8, but I can make them 6. And the new ones I've got are all 6, and look, it's actually a leaflet. I rather like it. My printing guy's really nice. So yes, that is the new style, and the new ones are all like that. They have this this leaflet style, and it's a card, so it's nice. You can write on it. It's not too glossy. You can write on that. So those are also included in the deal on my website. But if you're a New Zealander, then that's a good deal for you. But honestly, the postage is an absolute killer for overseas. So you might just want to get the PDF. Let me see what you're saying. But Amanda's finishing off her whips. So over it's really nice seeing all the new people joining. We've had a lot of new people join Wardrobe Toolbox, which is fantastic. The doors are closed now. And if you are thinking of it next time, then jump on the waiting list at wardrobetoolbox.com, and I'll get in touch with you. And it's been really nice because they've been coming over to the lounge and joining in and chatting. I'm half reading your comments at the same time. I can't look at the comments when I'm talking. It distracts me. Anyway, it's been really nice to see. And now I've lost my train of thought why I was saying that. Because someone said something. Oh, Amanda. Amanda said she is finishing her whip. So she started a group in there about it's called the Last Stitch Club. And so the idea is you're going to get those projects finished. And if you have a bunch, which nobody has more than Amanda, I promise you, you'd be a rare person if you have more than Amanda. It's just how it is, right, Amanda? We know. And so she's getting everybody to finish their projects, and she said she finished another one last night. So that's good. We've got a club about it. Yay, Terry's just finishing her first pair of socks for Socktober, weaving in the ends, and Rachel's been picking freesias. So lovely. Hi, Beth. Nice to see you from Ohio. Yes, and you also, the reminder about the sock discount. I'll send you another email so you'll know, but all of them are on sale until the end of the week. Jane says she's a sock knitting virgin, but you're going to jump in and give it a go. Excellent, Jane. That is excellent. Yona says, I don't think I received the PDF on sock. Should I email you? Maybe, so you can email it to me again. You're on the mini mag list, are you, Yona? Because if you are, I'll make sure that all of the 3 guides are all linked in the mini mag. So I will send that tomorrow. That's the easiest thing to do, I think, is just sit tight and they will arrive tomorrow. I've linked them in all of the mini mags that I've sent over the last week. So you can either, if you're already on the mini mag, that's the way you'll get them. But if you're not on the mini mag and you want them, go to trulymyrtle.com/sock toolkit, pop in your email address and your name, and you will get the one that we'll talk about today now, and then you'll get one tomorrow and then one the next day. And so there are 3 in total. So that's the best way to do it. But you'll also then get on the mini mag list And so then you'll get them in the mini mag. So it's good. Hi, Marina. That's really good. It's really neat. Does it work for H page? I don't think it does work for 8 page, Amanda. It just gets so bulky. I mean, I guess you could have one more turning, but I'm going to stick to it for the 6 pages. In fact, I think I'm going to go back and look at some of my older socks and make them 6 pages too, because I think it's just really nice. They're really nice having the little leaflet like that. So I'll work away at that when I have a chance. Oh, okay. There's something strange going on with your computer, Barbara, I think. Libby says, I'm glad I joined Wardrobe Toolbox, but need to navigate around. Yeah, so we did the video this week, Libby, which if you haven't watched, it's worth watching. I can't remember if you were there or not, where we showed you all around Wardrobe Toolbox. We tried to do it in half an hour, but it's an impossible feat, we realized. So it is an hour video, but we walk you all the way through Wardrobe Toolbox, and we show you everything, and we show you over in Sweater Fit Plus, and we show you in the lounge. So that's a good one to go back and look at, and Claire's linked it on the support page. We emailed you the replay, and then it's linked on the support page. So that's the support page is probably the best page to start, Libby, and have a read through that and watch the videos there, and then from there you'll have a better feeling of where to go next. Sweater Fit Plus is where you need to go next. Chris says, I just joined Wardrobe Toolbox. I'm amazed, it's in capital letters, she's amazed at the resources that are available there. I'm so excited for this season. Oh, I'm thrilled, Chris. I'm really thrilled. It blows my mind when we do a session like we did the other day, where we go through and see what's in there. And because I think when you're in the middle of it and you don't see it, what you've done, and I'm amazed at what is in there. It's huge. Wardrobe Toolbox is huge now, and it blows my mind, really. I can't quite believe we've got here. I don't know how we got here, but we somehow got here with lots of help. I have lots of help to get here, but it is really good in there. And make the most of it. There's a lot to learn, but it's also fun. Is there anywhere that sells your printed patterns in Australia? There are a few places, Louise. The person that buys the most from me is Sarah at Say Little Hen. So she is regularly buying bundles of patterns to sell in her shop, Say Little Hen. And so she's a good place to buy from, because she also does kits for a lot of the stuff that she buys from me, a lot of the patterns. So, and you can ask her if there's a pattern that she hasn't got. Ask her, and I'm sure she'll get some for you, extras. And so I just bundle them all up, but it's cheaper for you that way, for me to bundle them up and courier them to her, than it is for you to get them individually. So Sarah at Say Little Hen. The yarn place, they had quite a lot. I'm trying to think who there are other places, but Sarah buys the most from the Australian ones. I seem to be making parcels up for Sarah all the time, so she obviously sells a lot of them through her shop. But she's doing a Socktober with a knit along of this one. Which one? This one. She's doing the Pippi socks as for her Socktober knit along, and she's got these fabulous kits and things, so you can knit those together. So they're really pretty. Knit Sip Happy. Nancy highlighted a pattern on her podcast. Oh, yeah, Libby. Yeah, Nancy. Nancy is lovely. She helps me with moderating too, Nancy, over in the Hangout. And she is great. She's a good friend of Truly Myrtle. She has been a masterclass guest in Wardrobe Toolbox. So if you enjoy her stuff, you will really enjoy her masterclasses. She's done 2 for us over there. One was about shaping for the body, and the other one was about socks. It was a really good, about heels. It was a really good podcast, really good masterclass. But she has a fabulous podcast called Knit Sip Happy. She's based in Canada. So yeah, I actually, someone told me that, and I had a little look, and she looked so good. She had her ginger snap jumper on. It was really cute. Yes, she had my pattern. Yes, that's right. Slowly getting through, looking at the lounge and Wardrobe Toolbox as the weekend was busy with family. I know, Jill, Janet, you just do what you can, and don't panic. Don't stress about it. Just leave that to me. I do all the stressing over here. Don't stress about it. It's just, you do what you need get what you need when you need it. I think that's the best way to approach it. And if something catches your fancy and you're like, that's interesting, I wouldn't mind knowing about that, then go and disappear down that rabbit hole. But I wouldn't be too panicked about trying to do it all. There's too much to try and do it all. You'll get there eventually. Beth says, are the sock patterns in the toolbox? Some are, Beth, but not all. So if you go to your pattern library and scroll through, you'll see some of them. I'll show you the ones that are in there. This one, Florence, is in there. And because I put out these ones, Eliza, and then I riffed on it with a couple of others. So the other one from that series was Maggie. So those are all in there. They're all DK socks. Jilly socks are in there. Those ones, they're toe up. The others were top down, cuff down. And the other ones that are in there are this, Lodestone. And that Lodestone, actually, there's quite a few lessons in there about socks. So you might find those helpful when you're knitting socks as well. So the Lodestone socks are in there. They're cuff down and they are fingering. But the rest of them are not in there. But, yeah, jump on, make sure you're on my mini mag list. That's the best way to get discounts. And Nancy's also a test knitter. She is, and she made the Petra socks, and they looked amazing. Yeah. I love Nancy's rounded toe. It seems to suit my feet, so I sub it into every sock pattern I knit. Oh, that's good to know, Terry. Yeah. So she does a more rounded toe. I like a wedgie toe, but she does a more rounded toe. It's good to have a variety. I think, actually, those wardrobe toolboxes, I have a feeling that I did in these socks, which are DK, but you can take the I think I gave you 2 options for toes. One of these socks, I gave you 2 options for toes. And I think, was it Lodestone? Might have been Lodestone. I can't remember. Let me just have a quick look and I'll be able to tell you. You might be able to tell me better than I can tell you, some of you. Toe. No. It would be one of them. I did 2 options for toes. It must be in there. So there's a round toe and a wedge toe. But we also talked about different shapes for toes. And so if your toes have an angle on one side, or there's all sorts of different ways you can adjust for toes. Alrighty, shall we talk about what I was going to talk about today, which is, I brought a tape measure. Oh, that must have been it over here. Brought a tape measure, because in the first of the hangouts that I sent you, oh, Eliza, did I do it in Eliza? Okay, there we go. Thank you, Claire. In the first of these toolkits, in the toolkit, the sock toolkit, the one I put together, there are 3 guides. And the first one is called Easy Foot Measuring. And I thought that's the one we would talk a little bit about today. And I've got in it, I've got a little picture of a foot here with some, letters on it. And I've got here the place you can put your measurements. I've got where to measure, what to measure, best fit, and stuff like that. So I thought I could talk about that. But before we do, I thought I'd answer a question from Andrea. And if you have any questions that you want me to answer about anything, and I'll grab the sock ones first, then leave them over on my website at trulymyrtle.com/ask. And then you can ask me any questions and I can get them and answer them on the podcast. So Andrea has left me a question and she said, how you have inspired me to learn. Thanks so much. Thanks for the sock toolkit, which is a fab resource. I've taken the measurements of my feet. I think I'm a little odd is because both my feet are identical. Well, that's actually that's quite helpful, actually. A lot of us, our feet are not identical, but if yours are, then magic. She said, I've taken a deep breath, deciding to start my first sock. On the pattern, you use leg circumference. However, on the easy foot measuring, you don't. Maybe it's the same as lower calf measurement. Can you please let me know so I can get on my way? Thanks so much. So what she's talking about is on here, I get you to measure a bunch of different places. And one of them is here, A. And A is foot circumference, but I also get you to measure C, which is ankle, and then D, which is your calf. I'm trying to get you to measure all around your foot so that you get a sense of the size of your foot and whether your foot circumference is different from your leg circumference. But in patterns, and I noticed because I had a look this morning and I'm not consistent, but in patterns, you will find that the foot circumference and the leg circumference can be used interchangeably to describe the circumference of the sock. So for example, in these lodestone ones, for example, I've said leg circumference. in footsie, I said leg circumference. I think a lot of them I said leg circumference. Leg circumference. That one's also leg. I went leg, leg, leg. And then in the latest ones I've just done, I've said leg / foot circumference. A little bit more helpful. Leg / foot. That one says leg. That one says leg. That one says leg circumference. Oh, there we go. Look, I did that one for the new one too. Leg circumference. I'll try and be consistent from now on. Leg and foot circumference, I said for that one. And Eliza, I said leg circumference. Basically, all you need to remember is that when we're designing socks, or when you're the original sock is intended that your leg and your foot are the same circumference, and I mean your ankle. So somewhere around your ankle bone here, that measurement here is typically, but not always, the same circumference as that measurement here. Not measuring any bunions. Don't measure bunions. Pretend they're not there. Just go round them somehow. Don't measure those. But your ankle and your foot, strangely, probably, magically, are the same circumference typically, but not always. I know some of you have issues with swelling in the ankles. Some of you have broader feet, but typically they're the same. And so those words, leg circumference and foot circumference, are used interchangeably in patterns, but they are the same measurement. So don't let that confuse you. When you see a pattern, just know that the sock is going to be the same. The circumference at the ankle is going to be the same as the circumference at the foot, unless you're told otherwise. Okay, so hopefully that clears it up for you. I thought it would be helpful to talk about the best fit, how to get a great fit, and it does start with measuring. So I think the best thing to do is to take your shoes off, or for anyone that you're measuring, take your shoes off, your bare feet, give your feet a good wiggle because you want to relax them. You don't want to hold your toes up all crunched, or have your foot sort of slightly arched up. You want to have a nice flat foot. Measure both feet, because you might not have the perfect feet like Andrea. You might have different feet on either side, particularly if you're knitting for kids. Their feet might be growing at different lengths. And stand up. When you're trying on shoes, you need to stand up because your feet change when you actually stand up. So stand up. It can be helpful to get someone to help you, but you don't need someone to help you. You could do it yourself. And stand up, and you could either, if you want, draw around your foot. That might be easy to actually draw around your foot and then measure the length that way, or stand on a ruler. Hopefully it doesn't have a broken corner like mine. You can do inches or you can do centimeters. And if you stand on the ruler and see how long your foot is from the tip of your toe down to the back of your heel, you want to know what your foot measures and what it really measures. So that's the first thing I would do, is measure it and make a note of it. You can use the little chart that I've given you on the handout there to make a note of it. The next thing to do is to measure around your foot. So we have those places that I mentioned here. You've got various places to measure. Go around the bottom of your foot here in this area, and you don't want to pull it too tight, but if you measure around your foot itself and make a note of that, don't forget no bunions. You could then measure around this part here as well, so that you get a sense of your gusset height and how tall, how big are you through here, because that would be helpful to know if you're wanting to make adjustments. And then measure around here, your ankle here, so that you know whether or not your leg or your ankle circumference is the same as your foot down here. And then if you're thinking of making your socks longer, go up higher and measure higher up your calf, and just make a note of all of these measurements. And then the other one I want you to do is I would like you to measure your toes. And so if you could, I guess, if you're standing up, you could put a pencil or something through where the break of your toe is, or you could see where it is and just make a mark next to it on either side, and then draw a line so you know at the bottom of the foot that is the area where your toes are. Your toes start where the break of your toe is. So that's the beginning of your toe, and you'll want to know how long your toes are there before it gets to that measurement for your foot. This is my hand, but I'm pretending it's my foot. So measure that. Now, when we're coming to choose a size, socks, you're going to have an idea about how you like your socks to fit. You might like your socks to fit so that they're not too tight. You might get really hot feet and you might decide you don't like really tight socks. That's fine. You might also be someone who likes your socks quite firm on your feet. I mean, I just remember trying to get my kids, one of my daughters, honest to goodness, socks and her. It is just unbelievable, the dramas that we had about socks and how tight shoes needed to be. And she wanted her shoes so tight. I'd say, I think you're going to cut off circulation in your foot. I used to get them these Mary Jane shoes, and yeah, she'd yank them so hard and stick in that thing. She really liked tight shoes and tight socks, but she didn't like tight knickers, so who knows. Anyway, you will know how you like to wear your socks. As a rule of thumb, it's a good idea, so they don't totally slip off your foot and disappear away, to have them slightly smaller in circumference than your foot and your ankle, which are the same measurement in the pattern, don't forget. So it's typical to have them about 1/2 inch smaller in circumference, but you can then decide how much more or less than that you want. You can, if you go to the pattern, like in the pattern here for this one, I've got leg and foot circumference unstretched, right? So it's not stretched out. And I've said here what it is. So it's 6.5, 7.5 or 9 inches and the equivalent in centimeters for the sizes 1, 2, and 3. That's what the measurements are if you get gauge. So we're assuming you're going to get the same gauge as me. And you could look at that and you can say, well, my leg is an 8 inches. My foot is 8 inches. My leg is 8 inches. And this size in the middle is 7.75 inches. And typically I should have about 1/2 inch, make it 1/2 inch smaller. But actually 7.75 is probably be fine. It's only 1/4 inch. And actually something else to remember with these socks is because they're DK, that yarn is going to eat into your ease. So you'll probably find they're actually a little bit tighter, even though it's only 1/4 inch. Let's say you're 8. It's the sock, the yarn itself is fatter, so it's going to eat into that circumference, just a fraction. So you'll find that they're a bit firmer than if they were fingering and you only had 1/4 inch ease in your sock. So you can decide. You might look at that and go, that's not going to work for me. That's going to be way too tight, or it's going to be way too loose. Okay, what am I going to do about that? And then you might have a play around with the gauge and use bigger or smaller needles to try and get a size that you want at the foot. I don't know if that's kind of a secondary thing down the line. I would first try and figure out if you're happy with the ease that you're going to get, assuming you get gauge for your foot. So typically about 1/2 inch is quite good. So it's snug, but it's not cutting off your circulation like a sausage casing. Okay, so that's the first thing to think about. Oh, nice. Sabrina's going to cast on some Pippi socks somewhere in between. She's just done another version of a jumper I'm going to show you a jumpers in a couple of months. No, well, it'll be in October. It'll be next month. I've got a new jumper for you, which I think you're going to love. See, it's the only jumper of mine that my girls I've made in recent years. My girls have walked in and they've seen it, and all of them have said, whose is that? Is that, can we have that one? Can we have it? I thought, oh, that's good. Okay, they like that one. It's called Baystone. I'll show you when it comes. First time I've managed to get to a live. Oh, nice to see you, Sharon, and nice, Natalie. Brindis. Something I didn't know was possible is that when my foot size changed when I lost weight, I lost 10 pounds and I can't wear my older socks or shoes. I guess I have a lot of sock knitting to do. Sock knitting. Well, look, that's the thing. I was actually just telling Mr. Myrtle the other day that my feet have got wider after I had children. My feet are a lot wider than they used to be. I had these beautiful boots that I bought in Paris before we were, I think it was before we were married, or around the time we got married. I had no children, and I had these cutest little boots that they're like little ankle boots. And I've always had problems with the heel. I've had it repaired so many times to get it glued back on. But actually, the reality of those boots is they don't fit me anymore. They're way too tight. Way too tight on me now. I used to stick my little tiny foot into it, but now I have this broad 4-baby pregnancy foot, and it doesn't go in there anymore. So I think your feet must change. It's interesting that yours changed when you lost weight. So I imagine, are they a little bit narrower than they used to be? Because you're not pushing down on it so much, maybe? I don't know. This is also why I like rib up the back of the leg. I've knitted some without it and they don't stay put as well as the ones with a bit of rib. It only takes a few stitches to make a huge difference. Yeah, that's true, actually. That is true. So when we are thinking about choosing a pair of socks and we're not sure if they're going to fit us so well, and we're just feeling like, oh, I'm a bit nervous about this, or I'm making them for someone else, then choosing socks like these ones, see how they've got all that ribbing up the back? There's a lot of give in that. So they both stretch out. They're just more stretchy. They stretch out and they pull in. And so you'll get a nice fit around the foot. And the other ones of mine that also have a bit of ribbing at the back are these ones. These are lodestone. These ones here with that cable up the front. And these are love bugs. And in fact, Mr. Myrtle's been wearing his all the time. I keep seeing them on his feet. He's got the blue ones. And they're really nice snug fit because the ribbing up the back. So that is something to think about if you are wanting socks and you'd like something that hugs you but isn't too tight. Then going for a ribbing might be preferable to something that is like this, particularly if your gauge is a little bit off and they just get too firm because of the slip stitching in it. So you might find that this isn't, if you're really worried about getting a good fit and you're just practicing first to get this in the rhythm of socks, this one may not be such a good choice as those other ones with the ribbing. Oh yeah, Carmel, it's going to be a good one. That jumper. Which yarn did you use for Pippi? So the yarn I used for Pippi, those little DK socks, is this yarn. I've got a little bit here. I used 4 colours, these 4 colours here. See, I used 2 in the flower and then 2 in the stripes. It's actually lovely. It's really smooth. It's lovely and soft yarn. It's DK, and I used that one. Socks, yeah, DK. There's the back. It says 75 superwash merino, 25 nylon. I did buy it in New Zealand. I bought this yarn here. I haven't seen it here again, but someone was asking in the hangout the other day about DK sock yarn and saying it's a bit tricky to find. And I had a quick look and I found a bunch and I listed them in a post in the hangout. You'll see it there. And there's quite a few around that I found for where I am. And then I just asked you if you knew about sock yarn near you, and a lot of people have put other ideas for sock yarn, for DK sock yarn in that thread. So if you're in the hangout on Facebook, you might find that really useful, Lisa. And you don't have to use mine, use the same one I did. These socks, I've got these 3 pairs of socks here with the cable up the front, Maggie, Florence and Eliza, and I used a DK sock yarn from Dreamfire Yarns for those, and it's lovely, lovely, lovely. And that's a hand dye, so it's a different sort of look. It's got it's just sort of slightly more motley look to it. It's lovely. And there's the third one. I do particularly like these blue ones, Maggie. They're really pretty. So that's another idea. If you it depends on how you're going to wear them, because if you think you're quite hard on your socks and you're going to wear them in your shoes, or you're going to walk on them a lot rather than just sort of popping them on to keep your feet warm at the end of the day when you're sitting on the couch or hopping into bed, then you might want something in it to strengthen it. So nylon is one option. Some people use mohair, a strand of mohair, and other people use a strand of silk. They're quite strong. But if you're just going to bash around in them and not really do too much hard work on them, then you might find just a DK yarn. It may not last as well, but you might find it's okay. And if you get a DK yarn that isn't superwash, it will felt a little bit, which will add some strength to it itself. Rachel's saying you've got some DK sock yarn in your place. She's at Goodwool Hunting, and Rachel has really kindly offered Truly Myrtle followers, so that's you, an extra discount on sock stuff in her shop at Goodwool Hunting, and you just need to use the code SOCKS. That's right, isn't it, Rachel? SOCKS. And you'll get an extra 5% off anything that's already discounted, which is a really good deal. So if you want to go and grab some, she says she's got Opal, Winterson, and some Sheepies Super Norse, plus some 6-ply sock yarn Opal. Yeah, there is quite a bit around. Marina is here from Strawberry Patches. She's another New Zealand dyer. She said, I dyed up some sparkle DK socks in a lovely blue and green. Oh, that sounds good. So if you want something fun, and if you're knitting them, and you want a bit of bling, so, Marina at Strawberry Patches, she has got some sparkles in DK. Is that sparkle? Is that DK? Oh, it is. You just said it was sparkle DK for socks. That would actually be super fun in these. To have some sparkle through there would be really cute, I think. Roxy Fibers is another one. Have a great selection of DK sock yarn. So far, these are all New Zealand ones. I'm seeing a lot of New Zealanders in here that are telling me about their DK sock yarn. But I'm pretty sure that those of you overseas, that Coop Knits yarn is available in a lot of places. There are other DK sock yarns around. But like I said, maybe have a think about playing about, whether or not you actually need the strength in it or not. You certainly don't for the flower. The flower at the top, you just need a tiniest amount of yarn. Just grab something out of your stash if you've got it, I think. Would be fun. Hi from British Columbia. You're so excited to be a new member of Wardrobe Toolbox, Deborah. It's lovely to see you here. Ruth made Petra socks in cotton. Oh, yes, you did, Ruth. And it was gorgeous because she showed them to me when I saw her. And these are the Petra socks. And she made those in a cotton. And they were lovely, weren't they? They really were. It was quite a robust sort of yarn. It was nice. And Rachel says we're looking to get Coop socks. Oh, good. That would be good. Do cotton socks keep their shape? How are you finding them, Ruth, with the cotton ones? Because I think a straight cotton will lose its shape, but yours weren't straight cotton, were they? They were they had a mixture in them. So tell us in the chat there and I'll read it out. Yona said I bought drops sock yarn 75.25 from Wool Warehouse and only 10% tariff. Oh, that's pretty good. I paid FYI and very affordable shipping to the USA. Where are they, Wool Warehouse? Are they in Australia or England? I feel like, or Canada. Let me know, Yona. Amanda said another option is to hold 2 4-ply strands together. Absolutely, it is. Just check. You might end up with a slightly different gauge because it might be slightly fatter than a DK. It might work out to be more like a worsted, but 2 strands together. Wool Warehouse is in the UK. Oh, that's really good. Okay, so they have sock yarn drop by drops, 75.25, and it was only a 10% tariff to the US and good shipping. Oh, that's really good to know. Ruth said mine weren't straight cotton. They hold well, but you did make them slightly smaller than your wool socks and they wear really well and they do hold their shape. And was it Opal? I've forgotten, Ruth, what it was. Was it what the brand was that you use now? It was one of those kind of big box sock yarns, wasn't it? Claire said, I have some socks and cotton wool mix and they stretch with wear, but they do come back with washing. Oh, that's really good. Wow, Yona says the shipping from Wool Warehouse to the USA was only £3.99. So that's like $7. That's amazing. Okay, let's get back to the measuring because I can see a question here about measuring. When you measure toe length, do you measure just the big toe or do you measure from the break of the pinky toe to the tip of the longest toe? Measure from the break of your toe to the tip. That's your measuring. So I've put it here on the little handout. It's F. So you go from the break of that toe all the way to the tip of the longest toe. You just want a sense of how long your toes are there. And particularly if your toes, have a look at the shape of your toes. Maybe, if it's unclear to you just by looking at them, draw around them. And then you can get a sense of the shape of your toes because you can knit to that shape, especially if you put it onto some graph paper. You'll be able to see, if you're imagining the graph paper as stitches, each square could be a stitch, or you could work out what the dimensions are, and you could knit according to that shape for you, by increasing or decreasing depending on which way you're doing your toes to get the shape that fits your toe perfectly. Ruth's yarn was Regia, but you can't get it anymore in New Zealand. I thought it was a big one of those. Regia cotton blend. Yeah, it was really nice. Okay, so we've talked about our circumference of our sock and we've talked about how we typically want it slightly smaller so they stay on your feet. But how much smaller is up to you. It will depend a little bit on the yarn that you're using because if you are using the cotton, we've just heard that it stretches a bit even though it comes back. Ruth said she made hers a little bit smaller than her normal wool socks. Doesn't have the same stretch, and then it won't recover, won't spring back, in other words. It will also depend on whether you're using a DK or a fingering, because if you're using a DK, you can get away with having a little less, ease, so that it's a closer fit to your foot, because the yarn's going to eat up a bit of that space, versus a fingering where if you have lots of ease in that foot, then you're going to feel it because the yarn doesn't take up as much space. And I'm just reading your comments here. Nice to see you. So we've talked about circumferences, and if you're knitting for a child, then you probably don't want a full inch smaller. What did I say here? About inch smaller. Yeah, you probably don't want a full inch smaller. Did I say half an inch before? I meant an inch. So we want an inch, about an inch or 2.5 centimeters for an adult, and for a child, aim to have about half an inch or 1.3 centimeters smaller in circumference. Now, when we're thinking about foot length, that's slightly different, and there are two schools of thought, and I'm going to leave it to you to decide which one is going to work for you best. One school of thought is knit slightly smaller than your foot, because that way your foot will stretch into the foot, and if you knit about half an inch or 1.3 centimeters shorter than your foot, the one that you stood on the paper and you measured and you know exactly the length of your foot from the back of your heel to the tip of your toe, if you knit about half an inch smaller, then the sock will be a nice snug fit on you. We've got those same thoughts that we had before about the circumference. Depending on how you like to wear them and depending on the yarn, you can get away with a little bit more, a little bit less. But that's one school of thought. Make them smaller than you. The other school of thought is make them exactly the same length as your foot. And the reason you would do that is because you already have negative ease on your leg or your foot. So you're already stretching it out. And when you stretch things out, they get smaller, they're shorter, they shrink in length. So you're already stretching it out, and you don't need to add any more length because they're going to be fine anyway, because they've automatically become shorter. Now you're going to just be able to decide sock by sock, I think, how much of that you want to implement for your socks, because if you've gone to look at the leg circumference or the foot circumference, which is the same, remember, unless you're different, but essentially they're meant to be the same. For the sock pattern, they're the same. And you've decided that you're going to have quite a lot of that. The size in the pattern, you've got gauge. The size in the pattern means that you've got quite a lot of negative ease in that sock. So it's quite a lot smaller than your leg. Maybe it's a little bit more than an inch smaller. Then you might decide that, well, I'm not going to lose any more length on the foot because it's already quite tight on me. So I'm already stretching that sock out to capacity, and so it's going to be shorter anyway. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take off any length. I'm going to knit to the length of my foot, or the foot I'm knitting for. But the other way around as well. If you're finding that there's quite not much ease at all in the sock, so that the sock negative ease, I mean. So if the sock circumference in the pattern is pretty much the same as you, then you might say, well, maybe I will knit a bit of shortness, or maybe I'll be a little bit more generous on how short I make these socks because I'm not stretching them out at all. They're just going to sit on me, and I need to lose some lengths, right? So that you can decide. It's up to you to decide. The third school of thought, which I didn't mention, it's not really a school of thought, but the historically, people would knit their socks a little bit longer than their feet because there was no nylon. And I don't think that people were getting hold of silk pretty easily, and I'm pretty sure they weren't getting hold of mohair pretty easily. They didn't have strong fibers to throw in there. And so they'd knit their socks a little bit longer, and then as they wore them, they'd rub. Superwash wasn't invented. They'd rub, and those socks would felt, and they would then shrink as they were being worn. And so they would then end up being this perfect mold of your foot. I'm suspecting that the old-fashioned socks sometimes could end up looking a little bit more like a slipper bottom, like a Birkenstock for your foot around the bottom, because they would felt up. So there's never one answer, and there's never a right answer. There's just lots of ideas that you could think about. But the more you start diving into this and thinking about, I wonder what is happening with my sock, then the better your fit's going to be. let's be honest, getting a great fitting sock would be wonderful, but it might be a slightly different priority for you than getting a great fitting sweater. So you might find that you're like, yeah, look, they're socks, they're comfy enough. I'm going to live with them. And you're going to make a pair, and then next time I'll just tweak it slightly and tweak it slightly. So I don't think I'd be, stressing about it. I just trying to get a rounded understanding of what's happening so that you can make some really common sense decisions about how big to make your socks. I can see you talking about yarn in here. I like the full length of my sock, otherwise the heel tends to pull down. Yeah, that's a good thing to know. So it's a good thing to know. So you knit the full length of your foot. Otherwise you're yanking it. You're eating into your foot's eating into that heel as you walk. You're pulling it down into your leg. Deb's saying, I always knit shorter and narrower so they're firmer, as they can get a tad sloppy while wearing. You see, look, two totally different ideas, but they work for different people depending on your feet. We're all different. Okay, so we've thought about how we're measuring, and we've thought about how we're going to adjust the circumference. Well, we thought about how we're going to think about what size to knit based on what we're measuring. The last thing is your toes, and so you will start decreasing at your toes. You have a look at your toes. What are your toes actually doing? Are your toes that shape? Are your toes, angled like that? Do your toes start quite high? Do they start? We'll want to know where your toes are so that you can finish or start and be ready to move into your foot at the right place. So the best thing I think is to draw a picture of your toes. And for those of you in Wardrobe Toolbox, we have gone into more detail about this because I can remember drawing around toes in my family and showing you how everybody's toes were a little bit different. And so you might want to head over there and have a look up toes. And I think a lesson will pop up that'll help you out, diving a little bit deeper into how to adjust your toes and how you would adjust your toes. Like, what would you do and how would you do it? So, yeah, I'm hoping. So if you have got this foot measuring guide, that will give you that information as well. Not in the same, I've talked around it a lot, but it gives you the information about where to swatch. Don't forget where to measure. Don't forget that when you're swatching, you're only swatching in the round. You're not swatching flat. I mean, I love swatching because I love all different reasons for swatching. One of the big things I like about swatching is that you get to see how your yarn behaves, and you get to see if your colours like each other and if they're playing nicely. And you don't need to swatch in the round for that. You can knit the teeniest little swatches like that to figure out if the colours are working. I think a lot of us are very visual. I think it helps for us to see things happen before we really understand whether we like it. And so just knitting a tiny bit will help you. I don't know if I've even got my swatches in here. I haven't got my little swatches for the colours, but I did lots of different experimenting with colours and things for my socks, and to see whether I like those colours together, whether they're working and how they work together, which one was going to be more dominant and which one was going to be more, which one wanted to take over and needed to be a little bit in the background rather than being front and center, because you totally lose the other color. So many things you learn from a tiny swatch. When you're swatching for size, for the size of your stitches and the depth of your rows, then you want to do a bigger swatch. So you want to do a bigger swatch, but you want to do it in the round. So there's two things you could do, to be honest. You could either knit a swatch like I did when I was doing the what is it called? Pippi, the Pippi socks. I knitted quite a big swatch like this. I knitted a big swatch in the round because it was just easier for me to sit there and do that when I was on the sofa. So that was my swatch to knit my socks. I'm not expecting you to do that. You can. That would be amazing if you wanted to do that. I got a really good sense of what my stitches were in the round when I knitted it that big. But the other thing you could do is you could knit the sock. You could knit some of the sock. So if you're knitting from the toe up, like these ones, for example, if you're knitting from the toe up, why don't you start the sock and get going? And when you get about that much, why don't you block it, even if you just steam it, and measure it and work out if it's too tight or too loose or what's going on in your sock here. You could use that for your swatch. I let you do that for socks. I think it'll be fine. And then once you know whether you're on gauge or off gauge, you can either change needles, or you could rip back, or you could just plow on. It's up to you. And you think, I'm going to give these to someone else. You could do any of those things. But that part there is quite a good part to measure your socks. If you're knitting top down, like you are, for example, for these socks, why don't you knit a bit, cast on and knit a bit, and then measure your gauge here, because you are in the round there, right? Super easy to measure because you've got the rigid, you've got the ribbing, and you could steam it or wet block it and then use that to measure and to see whether or not you're on gauge or not, or whether you need to change needles, or whether you need to rip back, or what you want to do. I don't know if I would say you have to do something like this. If you want to, fine. It's always nice to learn about your knitting and to get a sense, especially if you're using new needles. It can be a really nice idea if you're using new needles to do a bigger swatch. So you're used to the needles, and by the time you're knitting your actual sock, your hands know what they're doing, and you're just off, and your gauge isn't going to lie to you and change as you're going. Oh, good. Denise says, you've motivated me to get back into sock knitting. Oh, good. Well, this is what October is about. And something I had completely forgotten to tell you about October, Socktober, is that Claire told me that originally Socktober was developed to give gifts. It makes sense. It's the time of year when we might start thinking about making gifts for people. But the idea of Socktober was that you would make socks, and you don't have to give them all away, but you would make socks to give to someone, and it would be a lovely gift, and you might donate them, or you might make them for someone you love or someone you're friends with, and maybe you'll make some for yourself. But yeah, I thought that was a really nice thing to add to the whole Socktober feel. Let me know if you have any questions in there. And I'll just remind you that if you want to get a discount for all of my socks, you'll need to be on my mini mag list. For all of my patterns, you'll need to be on the mini mag list. So head over to trudymyrtle.com/mini mag. I'll send you an email tomorrow. I haven't sent you any emails to remind you about the socks that are on sale, but all of my socks are on sale. I've got lots and lots of sock patterns, and they're all on sale until the end of this week. And I give you a code in that mini mag so you can grab them. And I've also got the sock toolkit, which if you're on the mini mag, I'm going to send you those again. I'll just put links in all the emails for the next, over the next month, so that you can grab that. And if you're not on the mini mag, then you can head to trudymyrtle.com/sock toolkit, one word, and then you can download your sock toolkit. And the first one you'll get is this one, and that will come immediately. And then 24 hours later, you'll get the next one. And then 24 hours later, you get the next one. I just had a message this morning from someone who said she got one and she got three, but she hadn't had two. And make sure you're checking your junk folders, because emails are doing funny things at the moment. I think there's a real effort to get rid of spam. And I think a lot of us are getting caught up in the spam folders at the moment. So if you're not getting emails from me and you're expecting them, then check all your other folders and check if it's in there. And if you can't find it anywhere, just email. You can email hello@trudymyrtle.com, and we will try and figure out what's happened. And it might be that we need to delete you off our system and get you to re-sign up again, because sometimes it just goes a bit funny. You need to open the emails, or the email system gets a bit cross, and then it decides not to send you the emails anymore. So just, if you're getting emails from me, it's a good idea to open them. And everybody else, anyone who get emails from, it's a good idea to open them. Alrighty, everybody. Well, that was lots of sock talk. Can I talk about needles? I'll talk really quickly about needles. Should we talk about needles some more next week? I've showed you before these needles that I use, which I really like, which are the Chowgu Shorties. I've used all kinds of needles, and they come with lots of cables. I've bought extra cables. This is the cable that I use when I'm doing my knitting for my socks, little tiniest cable. They're tiny, tiny little needles, and they come in a pack. The sock ones come in a pack like that, so there's lots of good sizes. You can do everything from tiny socks right up to DK with that. And they come in two different lengths, the tips. They come in a 2-inch length and a 3-inch length. And I have discovered the way I like to use them is I use a 3-inch length on my right hand and a 2-inch length in my left hand. And I find that the easiest way to use them. The other thing I do is that when I'm casting on a toe up sock, I use 2 needles, 2 cables. And I find that the easiest way to do it. And it can be longer that way as well. And so I still have the ends. You could have them all 3-inch tips or all 2-inch tips. It doesn't matter, or either. And then I just go from one needle to the other needle. When it says needle 1 and needle 2, you go from one needle to the other needle. You'll find at some points they're both on the one needle, and then you'll knit them back onto the other needle. But I like using 2 needles. You can get knitting sock needles that are, I think they're called the Addy Trios. Is that what they're called? And there's 3 little short flexible needles, and you knit from one to the other and one to the other, and that's more like DPNs. And I did learn to start knitting socks on DPNs, and I used to knit them all inside out. All my socks are inside out. And I can remember looking at my mum. She was visiting me in England, and she was knitting her socks the right way out. And I said to her, how do you knit your socks the right way out? I'm not understanding what's going on with your socks, because yours are knitting, mine are all inside out. When I'm finished, I have to turn them in the right way. So then I realized that I had to knit at the front of my needles and not the back, the front of the sock and not the back of the sock. And so I'm sure it's because I'm left-handed. I blame everything on that. But I figured out that I had to actually bring all my stitches to the front facing me when I'm knitting. But I like these DPNs. I've used all sorts of DPNs, but I like these Zings, Knit Pro Zings. And they're all up high. We'll try and push them down so you can see. And I keep them in their little packets, all in this case. So I've got all these DPN packets in there, which I actually sorted out the other week when I was looking for something that wasn't there in the end. And I like these ones, Zings, because I like the fact that I know all those are the same size because they're all the same colour. Because the other Zings in different sizes, look, different colour. So good. So those are the 3s. Those are the 2.25s. And and I like the pointiness of them on the end. So you can use a magic loop if you want, one really long needle, and pull the cable through. That works for a lot of people. I'm not a big fan of magic loop, but a lot of people like magic loop. So there's lots of different sort of needles that you can use. I tend to write mine as if I'm using a circular needle, but if you're using DPNs, you just know you're going to arrange your stitches on those needles. Where I have markers, you're not going to have markers. You can just arrange them so that your end of your needle is where the marker is. You could probably do that, and you could either use 3 or 4 needles to hold the stitches and then 1 to knit with. So it's up to you how you want to do that. Okay, I've never knitted socks. Which pattern would I suggest I start with? I designed these. Well, it's 2 things. You've never knitted socks at all, and you've never knitted toe-up socks. It's up to you feeling how brave you are. Depends how brave you are. I designed these for someone who hadn't knitted toe-up socks before. So this is a DK yarn. The stitches are going to be bigger, so they're going to be a bit easier to negotiate. But those are toe-up. And for some people, that just might feel like completely, don't tell me to do that. So if you're feeling nervous about that, then also think about doing any of these 3. DK is it's up to you. I'll tell you some options. DK is a good place to start because the stitches are big and the socks grow fast and they feel quite satisfying, and you get to grips with it really quickly, and then you can go back and do something else. These 3 are all DK. They're Eliza and Maggie. They've got cables up the front, Maggie and Florence. Those are all DK, and they all start at the top. They're pretty straightforward, those ones. They're all over patterns. But I have to say that probably the socks that people knit the most are these. And these are the footsie socks. And they are fingering socks. They're started at the top. They have an all-over, pretty addictive, easy pattern. And they're easy. They're lovely and straightforward, these socks. Beautiful colour. I love this colour. This is Mrs. Peacock's yarn. But yes, so you start at the top, you work your way down, you do your heel flap, and you then pick up stitches along the heel flap and work down for your gusset and do your toe. So those might be a good place to start as well if you're stuck. And the last pair I would suggest out of these, which is not going to be too tricky, are these. And the nice thing about these is, of course, remember I said they have the ribbing, and so they will give you a fit even if you're not quite right, even if you may not have quite nailed the fit. This will help give you a fit that you like, because the ribbing will pull in, and they have slip stitches along the front. They are also from the top. So those two, if you're going from the top, if you want to do fingering, those three if you want to do from the top and DK. You have to remember the colours. You'll see them on my site. And then these ones, if you want to try toe up and their DK. That's what I would recommend. That's what I think would be nice and easy. My phone did not adjust the time. Oh, drat, Jess, I'm here. You'll be ready for next week. Oh, you love my Alex. Yeah, I'm wearing Alex today. This is such a cozy jumper, and it's got these lovely little puffy sleeves. I love it. It's really comfy. Got those fun shoulders. Over the shoulders. Thought the tab was open, but I had Eastern. Oh, so you're here now, so that's good. You're looking forward to looking around Wardrobe Toolbox, hopefully this week. Yay, that'll be good, Sue. Christine says I only knit socks on Magic Loop. Yeah, you just have to do what works for you. We're all different, aren't we? We all like different things. Melanie said I have just purchased some square DPNs, which I have not yet used. But the review was that they held stitches on and they didn't slip too much. I'm wondering if they are those carbons, because they probably have a good amount of grip. I think that's something else to watch if you're knitting and you're new to knitting socks, is maybe start with some bamboo needles if you're going to do if I've got bamboo needles, because they're not so slippery. I've got all sorts of wood needles. I started on bamboo needles. The problem I have with bamboo needles is that my hands must get quite hot, and I bend them, and I come away with, they look like canoes or boomerangs by the time I'm finished with them. Those ones are a bit thicker. Oh no, they're 2.75. Yeah, a bit thicker. So I come away with them bent in my hand. In fact, those aren't. Oh yes, those are bamboo. Yeah. So I don't know. Experiment. You can never have too many needles, I think. But those ones that you're talking about might be the carbons and the square ones. And they, I've got a pair on circular needle, and I think, yeah, Knit Pro carbon. Yeah, I think they probably have quite good grip. They'd probably be quite good actually to start with, Melanie, so they don't all slip off your stitch, or slip off your needles. Amanda says, I love Magic Loop 2 at a time, no second sock. Yes, so I never do 2 at a time for my socks, because I'm always doing 1. That's why I'm never doing 2. I'm always doing 1. Do I like it? Does it work? Great. Okay, now the pattern's okay. I'm not going to rip back 2 socks if my pattern's not working. So I always do 1. Same with sleeves. I always just do 1 at a time. But I know 2 at a time would be amazing. Some people do 2 at a time, but they're not on the same needle. And so you do 1 sock here and 1 sock here. And then you just keep doing this bit on that one, bit on that one, bit on that one, bit on that one. And then by the time you're finished, you don't have the dreaded to the second sock syndrome, which a lot of people get. What's the sock with no heel called? They all have a heel, but do you mean the one that goes down like that? Do you mean that one? I think you might mean that one, Maureen. That is footsie. This is footsie sock. Could be that one that you're talking about, because I think these have a heel. Those have a heel. Yeah, all the others I showed you have a heel. But yeah, so these are footsie. Footsie socks. Alrighty, everybody. Well, that was lots of sock talk. I hope you're happily knitting on socks and having a go. And we'll talk some more about socks next week. I've got a couple of... Go and grab the handouts if you want to. They're really helpful. I tried to just abbreviate them so they wasn't too wordy. And we'll talk about some of the others next week. We'll talk about the second one, I think. And in the meantime, if you want to come and join us and knit socks together with other people and experiment and learn new things about sock knitting and just generally have a pretty time showing off your yarn and your socks and looking to see other people's and feeling inspired by them, then come and join us in the Facebook group. That's called the Truly Myrtle Knit and Chat Hangout. It's on Facebook. I know Facebook isn't for everyone, but it's just we're there now, and there's like 5,500 people there, so we're going to stay there for that group. The lounge on our Wardrobe Toolbox, we're not on Facebook, so But we're on Facebook for the Hangout, and come and join us. And we're knitting socks, and people are knitting all sorts of truly myrtle patterns, but there's lots of sock talk at the moment. So if you want to find that list of DK yarn from all over the world, that's in there. And I'll be popping in to talk about socks. And we also give away patterns every week. So if you post in that group, you will go into the draw for winning some truly myrtle patterns. And every week we draw a few winners, and you get to win a pattern. You can choose your pattern that you want out of all my patterns, and there's about 110 now, so there's quite a lot to choose from. All right, everybody, I will see you same time, same place next week. So do lots of happy knitting, and I will catch you then. See you later. Bye, everybody.